We got my mic was off. How you doing, Bruce?
Oh, I'm good. I signed on to Facebook just to do a stream and just told everybody to come on over to YouTube and join Jeffrey Smith and Bruce Becker for a Q&A on.
Come on over. Yeah, join the party. How are you doing? How's Los Angeles these days?
Good. A little cooler today, although I was looking at the week ahead and it looks like it's going to warm up quite substantially again. Back to our normal, last minute or last, what do you want to say, the last days of summer.
They are ending quickly, and it's already, the winds have changed here, so it already feels like it's time for autumn almost, right? It's amazing how fast it happens. So it's been chilly. It's
how chilly?
I mean, the high yesterday was 68. We're pushing near 40 for lows at night. Not 40, but like 49, 50.
Yeah, but that's just getting a little bite, and you're like, wait a minute. I thought summer was still going to cling for just a few more moments, and not.
And the whole joke of it is it'll warm back up, and we'll get to an 80, 85. You know how it works. You're from the Midwest, and so it'll settle down. It won't be bad, but it's definitely has that. It's just that air, and then the sun sets at a different angle this time of year. You just start to notice it. 7 o'clock, we're dark.
So, I got you.
I'm gonna need some happy pills, but
all right.
Anyway, so what's on tap? What's on tap today?
Well, we're gonna tap on that pad. I'm just gonna say one more thought to the Facebook folks. There's a couple live. Come on over to YouTube and join us on the stream. If you're on my Facebook page, you'll see the link to that. And come on over because you can ask a question. I just have my little phone camera and I can't see from this distance. And Jeffrey's going to be hosting all that question stuff. So come on over to YouTube, folks. I'm going to sign off here.
Get those little Facebookers over here.
Yeah, get them over. And then
over there trying to get their memes up really fast on Sunday. They got to get over here and get their sticks moving.
Video is ended. That's it. video has ended.
We're going to get you a stream deck.
Okay. So here we go. So,
all right, sir.
Yeah. What do we want to talk to? Well, we said, choreographing your movement. A big part of what I do is throw down a whole element and, comprehensive strategies to how to move and build up that muscle memory and that actual delivery system to excise, get rid of some of the tension. Now, I always say you can't get rid of all the tension. There's a certain point in time where you need some grasp to what you're doing, or the sticks will be falling out of your hand.
Yeah.
But those pressure points would be, conducted in a way where you can start to calibrate and figure out how much pressure do you need, and in most cases, what I generally promote is a little bit more of the hug and the housing in the back of the hand to alleviate the idea of putting stress in the front part of the hand, which would close down access to the back of the hand. And that's where a lot of bang for your buck comes from. So,
awesome.
If I'm doing stuff like this, well, look at you can see a pretty good shot of my left hand here. There's not a lot of tension with my thumb and index finger. It's not really any kind of a squeeze or pinch in getting, wild and woolly with it. So those elements are absolutely imperative. But at the same rate, we also want to conduct some identity of how to move and how to lift and drop. And every sticking will give you a pretty much, let's say, a fundamental move that can always be moved around. So if I just take a look at the single paradiddle, and I'm just operating in a mode of, all right, here's my single paradiddle. There's nothing to it but a downstroke accent. It would be down, up, double, down, up, double, down, up, double, down, up, double. 1 E, 2 E, E, E. So all my upstrokes would be nice and well positioned to move on the E of those 16th notes. When I'm moving faster, all that stuff is still in works. It's just minimized. Time and space being relative. You can't go flying off the pad when you're playing this tempo. But if we were to slow it down and do a slow motion video, you'll see all that movement inside what's going on here. In fact, if I just do what I generally do for my students is just do a separation of the hands for a moment. Look how Moeller-esque. Well, I'll focus on the right hand. The left hand will be doing the same thing in opposition. But look at how Moeller-esque my right hand is moving. So I've got that locomotive action in the motion of the paradiddle. And those things are super valuable for you to work up the speed and the flow that you might be pursuing. Again, it's not necessarily always about drum solos, but we do want to build up a headroom, a relationship with the sticks that honors, the potential growth. At the end of the day, it might be a smaller lane of what you would do on a real gig, but everybody I teach wants to have that. I don't care what level they are. They always want to improve their hands and have a better flow, have better access to speed and efficiency with what's going on, and try to be more aware of the tension. Now, like I said, tension is good in certain spots, but certainly not in my elbow or my bicep. There's no need for me to, pound down like that. In fact, if I'm pounding into the pad, that's very abusive to the hand. So, there are moments where you would use your wrist, but you want to set up the wrist and the hand to accommodate the acoustic value of the stick, the resonant quality, the breadth of the stick. So going through, like the choreographing of certain things, I'm just going to talk topically about a few different items that are, on our plate of study. And I'd be more than happy to take up any questions that show up. So again, going with the single paradiddle. So I said we have a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, double, down, up, double, down, up, double, down, up, double. If I go to an inverted paradiddle, that has a different structure. So if you're familiar with the book Stick Control and you're looking at page 5 and you go to page 5, number 5, 6, 7, and 8, those are the 4 variations of paradiddles. The first one being our normal presentation. The second one, number 6, I call that the inverted paradiddle. Number 7, I refer to it as the reverse paradiddle. And number 8, the second inversion. And each of those, if we are promoting the downstroke being the beginning of each grouping, then each of those paradiddles will have a slightly different movement going on. For example, if I go to number 6, my upstrokes now are going to be the diddle. So it's 1 E and a 2 E and a down, up, and down, up, and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. If I play it slow, I'm going to wait and be patient to get my lift to be more coordinated to the second stroke of that double. And that's just, again, a byproduct of tempo and spirit of tempo. When you're going through certain movements and you're playing it slow, there's an air of relaxing and sitting on the pad to not have any anticipated movement, not have any like, oh, where am I going? Or reflexive movement. You want to be able to hang. So, and what do I mean by hang? Well, again, if I'm just doing like the inverted paradiddle, 1 E and well, this just a tap stroke. There's no need to lift or pull or do anything funny with it. It's just my wrist dropping with the weight of the stick to produce the of those 16th notes. If we're just agreeing that those will be 16th notes. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. And so getting accustomed to sitting in a relaxed state with certain strokes of, let's say, the outline or the choreography or the sticking affairs that were put up against. For example, like the double paradiddle and triplets, I always use that one because those strokes are dedicated to the quarter note pulse. The downstroke on 1, the upstroke on 2, the downstroke on 3, and the upstroke on 4. That's, contingent upon those being 8th note triplets. Well, that works well because everything is synchronized now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But all those strokes that are on the pad, all those tap strokes, I want to be able to have an air of sitting on the pad. And again, playing it from the back of the hand. So I have that direct drive approach. Think of a hand drum. You can't come to the drum from a forearm like that. So the drumstick being an extension of the hand, we got to coordinate a few things that are in harmony with that. Not everything's going to work perfectly like that because you have a different operating system of having some rebound and other things that you're not necessarily going to get from your hand playing on a head. So back to the movement of the inverted paradiddle. A 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. And then you go to the third of those 3 variables of paradiddle, and you have the reverse paradiddle. Well, now back to the downstroke right on the 1. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. And the upstrokes would be on the end. So I'm watching and listening to myself and not paying attention to what I'm doing here. But again, upstroke on the end. 1 E and a 2 E and a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And with the final one, that's the good one because that's where the upstroke is on the to the downstroke. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1. That's a clever one to work on. And really kind of get that to, materialize. I don't use that one as often. When you go through an arsenal of stickings, you investigate a myriad of different movements and stickings and ideas. And at the end of the day, you do a little bit of an inventory. What is valuable? What is not? Well, I sit with things even when they're not showing up in my playing immediately to process, allow it to grow and permeate. And like I said, some things kind of hang and some things don't. That's okay. The tangled riddles that you can come up with stickings, whether it's working through rudimental escapades like the Wilcoxon book, or the new book, the Gadamans book. What a great book Steve Gadd put together. Really a fine example of some tangled little webs to work through. And so you just want to be prepared to, figure out what is the path of least resistance to put through that sticking and get it motoring along with a nice flow and not become, stiff and trying to muscle it out. Because at the end of the day, that's not going to help. And all those motions need to be exploited slowly. I must stress slowly so they become regulated. You can see everything when you're moving slow, every little nuance of that movement. Build up that tracking mechanism to focus upon how you're moving, where any tension lies. And again, just allowing the delivery system from the shoulder down through the elbow and the wrist to be easily grasped, and then work on the, the appropriate stickings. What are the appropriate stickings? I don't know. There's so many things to work on, but paradiddles and paradiddle-diddles and double paradiddles and any combination. Like here's one where it's, I started with a paradiddle-diddle, and I was doing 2 accents. That's kind of a one of the things out of like a Gary Chafee book. And then taking that idea and then adding 2 extra singles at the end of it, and you have and that's a good one. That's I call that kind of Flight of the Bumblebee. It's got so things like that. Again, the movement, I'm coming down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 down. And those actually, the beginning strokes will become bounce strokes or wristed strokes to maintain that. Other things that I use, Stick Control is a great book because it's got pretty much everything in there that you'd want to encounter. Dicing up all the mathematical combinations. In essence, I don't say everything, but man, there's a lot of stuff in there. And if you go to the middle of the book, page 30, there's an exploit of exercises in 3/8. They start out with just 4/16 notes, 1 and 2 and then followed by a group of 16th triplets, 3 and Lee. Again, we are in 3/8 time, but the beat now is an 8th note, so all those 16th notes could be counted as if they are all 8th notes, and the 16th triplets counted as 8th note triplets. All right, what's the point of that? Number 1 would set up a very nice movement to work with, and that would be down, tap, 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 up, tap, down, tap, 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 up, tap, 1 and 2 and 3 and Lee, and 2 and 3 and Lee 1. And if you cut down to number 11, now you have the same version, but with double strokes. So it really is a great way to work on your triplet-based 7-stroke rolls. And if I just play it, it would be slowly. 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Down, tap, 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 up, tap, down. Okay, now when I'm saying up, if I'm playing that roll slower, the upstroke is, again, not technically coming up on the first if it's slower, the first of the doubles that would be under the movement of up. It would be I would say an up. Give me a little bit of a character that I'm letting the first stroke go and then picking it up off the pad on the second. But that's geared towards tempo. If I do move up, then the strokes will blend into each other and I'll get a little bit more of that streamline locomotive action. So that's a good one. And again, very movement oriented. If you just take the 7-stroke roll unto itself and put it into more of, let's say, a structure where it's in 4 or 2, I would have, for example, just 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, tap up, tap down, tap up, tap down, tap up, tap down, tap up, tap down. Well, in that setting, it's always going to be right to right. The reason I like the one in the Stick Control book is because it automatically goes to an left-hand lead. So you have 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, those are some of the sort of the topical things. I just want to stop here for a moment and jump in with Jeffrey and say, are there any questions, Jeffrey?
At this point, there's no questions. We have some people in the house like Kenneth Taylor and Chris Russo, Forte drummer and Grave drummer, Manuel Frick.
Okay.
I believe he stopped in before, and I just wanted to say hi to everybody who has stopped in. I had to double check because chat was a little weird at the beginning, so they've helped me work through that. Okay. But yeah, right now there's no questions, but I want to just throw that out to people that if you have any questions or comments or whatever, please drop them here. There's nothing that you can't ask here,
Cool.
even if it's a little off topic. Don't worry about it.
So I'm just going to shoot to a little bit of a different book and a different concept of movement that I use quite, let's see, it's not quite regularly. It's one of the things I'm shooting for everybody, to build up, again, a greater attention to detail of movement. And Ted Reed, again, another great resource. And I always ask, did Ted know what he was writing when he wrote that book? Was he so advanced in his idea of how that book could work? Because boy, has it been used in multitudes of different ways. And I myself have contributed to, I think, some creative input to how that book could be used. For example, I'm going to go, and this is a basic a building block from what we would call the syncopated pages. So if you're having a newer copy of the book, it would be pages 34 through 45. And if you have the older edition, it would be pages 33 through 44. But those pages have been used, in multitudes of, whether it's moving around the kit or using it for jazz concepts and building independence. So what I did more recently, probably in the last few years, was bring that idea for the triplets and put it into the end of the book. So again, if I go to the old printing, page 55, and if I go to the newer printing, page 56, and let's just say we're going to work with number 37. With 37, you have a one-bar phrase in eighth note triplets, and it would be 1 and lead 2 and lead 3 and lead 4 and lead 1 and lead 2 and lead 3 and lead 4 and lead 1. So let's add what I would do systematically to enhance an inner logic of movement. This would be step 1 of a few of these exercises, to just be able to grab a flow, so that when you were to see, a large amount of these things in multitudes and moving the accents around, that you wouldn't be, stammering or stuttering with it. You would walk right through it and just flow. And the inner logic of your lifts and drops would be, really brought forward by where the accent structure sits. So, and again, another great resource for this kind of concept would also be Gary Chafee's Sticking Patterns book. What a great array of pushing you around to identify what is potentially available movement wise. And Gary does it very creatively by pursuing the insight to positionings of maybe groups of 5s or 7s or 3s, things that would be maybe not recognized. Once you recognize them and see how they work, man, they can add quite a bit to your vocabulary and your movement around the kit. So, for example, going back to number 37. All right, so again, I have a very definitive movement. This is going to be in German grip just because. I mean, I can do it in French grip, and maybe I'll spend a moment doing that as well, or even traditional grip. But I'm just going to show it in German. And so my first stroke, I got an accent on 1 and a. I want to get a nice pop and a catch or a close. And I say basically a bounce to a close, getting my forearm to respond to that energy. You are the director of the energy of the stick. I could throw that stick down and it can do that, but that's maybe not as productive as me following the bounce in a little bit more of a vertical plane to accentuate how those arcs, orbits can really work and be built into a streamlined approach when you move faster. At first, more elliptical based motions, you want to get inside those, but as you build up the tempo, it'll become, maybe a little more circular to a little more lateral, and on and on and on. So with this one, I'm just going to take it slow, and I'm going to speak out all the movement. So I have bounce, tap, close, up, down, up, tap, bounce, tap, close. Okay, that bounce to close, that production of that is so crucial to be super efficient with that and to allow that to occur. Well, I'll do it on the little bit more of a herd pad here. There we go. To feel that genuine, what do we want to say? The equal dynamic of the first to the second stroke without having to slam the door. I don't want to slam the door. Think about closing a car door where you had just pushed it just right and it just vacuum closed. Well, feel that timing of the stick just coming into the hand without driving it through the pad. Bring it to the pad. Feel that nice closure and get the timing of that to be, again, spot on. Not a second late, not a second early. And so all the other nuances of the up, up, down, down, well, that's a little bit of a bumpy road, because you might be in lifting here, or in the lifting mode here, and then all of a sudden this guy feels like tied and stuck, and it's not moving well. So you want to honor that ability to have the independence of this value of lift and not allow it to be obstructed by a lift with the opposite hand. In this case, it would be the right hand, because I'm coming up with an up, up, down, down, which would be 2 and Lee 3. Not easy, again, to work that out so that the coordinated affair of how you float and dance is, expertly done with precision. And some people might go, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't need that. But I can tell you that the freedom that you will feel from that, getting inside the choreography and building up some inner understanding of that. I'll just do my Bruce Becker line. What's the difference if you don't know the difference? Until you experience the difference, you may not be qualified to sit in a position to recognize the value of something. So as a student of the art, I think it's incumbent upon everybody to investigate some things, and you'll instantly know. You can, discern, oh, that's not necessarily what I need. There's a lot of flexibility. I don't really necessarily throw things out and go like, oh, you can't use that. Oh, that's wrong. No, I would say this way is a little more right. Maybe this is a little more streamlined. But you can do it that way. You might find yourself a little more tied and tight with what you're doing. And sometimes that tightness is an attitude that is maybe evoking a certain feeling to the music. If you're thinking about certain kinds of rock and roll, well, maybe a stiff approach is going to generate that. I just don't want to walk off the gig, having somebody have to pull the stick out of my hand. I want to be able to instantly go, boop. I always tell some of my students, it's great to use your shoulder, right? I just don't want to walk off the gig with my shoulder stuck here and go like, wait a minute, and push it down. I want to be able to have the flexibility of lift and drop and know where those pressure points are and fine tune the release and the drop. And again, I don't want to be so loose that I'm dropping sticks or I'm playing like a spaghetti noodle and not getting any point or definition or design to the time. You want to get a nice pointed stroke out of what you're doing. And that's timing. And that's also knowing how to draw the stick and get things to come into the hand. Okay, so back to number 37. I'm going to play it again. And I'm just going to speak my directive out. It's so important to speak that directive out so that word choice, like neurolinguistic programming, comes like a relationship of you really being in the moment and sitting with every value of stroke. 1 and Lee 2 and Lee 3. Well, that's good to count it. I need to know that those are eighth note triplets and acknowledge that and know where every stroke is. But let's go. Bounce, tap, drop, up, up, down, up, tap, bounce, tap, drop. Or bounce, tap, close, up, down, up, tap, bounce, tap, close, up, down. Look at how easy my forearm just gives with that. Again, I'm just conditioned to feel the energy and go with the direction of the stick. Of course, I am directing it. I'm directing the energy. Again, you can go bop and that stick can go flying bang. You go, hey, look, I got a good bounce. But if you're not engineering a direction to that energy, then you're missing out on some of the potential that you could put forward to build up, again, like this flow. I always talk about the flow, and it's just built on years of me working out different things and feeling how I can interconnect a great vast amount of stickings and phrasings. You got to think like I always say in terms of phrasing, if you're looking at building blocks, I'm not thinking licks, I'm thinking lines. Okay, inside my lines, I may have licks. That's okay. But the lines are thinking about, this is the tempo, these are the rhythmic groups that I have at my disposal, and don't get stuck in one particular rhythmic lane unless it's appropriate. But feel the shifting of gears that you can get into. And that, you got to just work that one out. I have some really great well-established concepts to build up that relationship of shifting gears, moving things around, and getting it to be streamlined and totally at your disposal, and get a new command, thinking more like a horn player. So, I've done this before, but I'll just do a quick run through. Here are my eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, zoo da, ba doo ba da, and dee ba zoo ba da ba doo da, ba ba doo boop ba. Those are all eighths. 1, 2, triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bazooba da didn't da dooba doo bazooba da didn't do ba da 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 dibba doo baza da da dibba da doo ba dibba dibba da zooba dee doo da. 16. Zubba didn't dibba dibba didn't dibba dibba didn't da da ba doo da ba da dibba dibba didn't da da ba. Put them together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Zooba ba doo ba bazooba da didn't da dooba da bazooba didn't dibba dibba didn't dibba dibba didn't da da ba bazooba da dibba doo ba doo ba doo doo boo ba da da ba. Sorry, I'm a little toasty with my voice and my scatting. I'm not like locked in. It's early in the morning for me, and I say that loosely. I'm not early in the morning. I'm up early in the morning every day because I have 2 small kids and a dog, and it's never a dull moment here at the Becker home. So, but anyway, I'm feeling a little crusty in the voice because I'm teaching every week, and that's the thing that I tend to not take care of as much because I'm talking every day for several hours a day. But all right, so that being said, going back to that movement, let's just look at number 38, because now that'll address the left hand doing the double accent. And again, the same motions are at work. They're just switched over to the left hand. And when I do the up, up, down, down, that's going to be, again, now led with the right hand, because that's going to lead up to 3 and lead 4. I had to think about it for a second. I didn't have it in front of me. So we got down, up, tap, bounce, tap, close, up, down, up, tap. 1, 2, up, 4. 1, 2, up, 4. 1, 2, up, 4. Okay, immediately, most people want to try to get to that more medium bass tempo, and I say, big X. Don't do that. Live inside that move. I know the brain wants to carry you and think, oh, yeah, I got it. But sit there and be methodical. As I say, sit in the Zen zone, right? Just get into that for what it is, not what it isn't. And allow it to permeate. Get a comfort zone. Make it feel easy so that when you do that, you go, oh, yeah, this is easy. But don't let that easy sucker punch you into bringing you forward and trying to play it faster. A lot of people are under this guide of like, I got to get fast. You will. But in order to really build a streamlined fast where the things are moving better and the lubrication of your limbs and fingers and pressure points have been thoroughly examined, that's when you're going to get your bang for your buck. And I have a bunch of exercises that are tailored for building up speed. They're all about that, but it takes a moment to get there, not years. It just takes a little time of building some inner working building blocks of motion related items so that the fluidity of those things are at your disposal. And when you get a chance to sit comfortably in that zone, yes, sir, you will see the results coming through. I had a kid years ago, and he was telling me, hey, man, we've been doing these exercises really kind of slow. Can I play them fast? And I went, yeah. So I counted off a tempo and said, all right, play this. And this guy looked at me and his eyes opened wide. He went, I didn't know I could do that. So it was like the old Wizard of Oz. You have the ruby red slippers, but it takes a journey to recognize that you have them. And of course, they don't show up at first. You have to get some experience and walk the walk a little bit to really bring in forward to that relationship of how things move. And if you're an older guy and you want to retool up, that's probably more problematic because there's, so many things built in and, you're thinking, I want to get to this now. Hey, man, it takes time. I've got several of my students, like probably 60% of my students are in their 50s and 60s. And I can pull out my phone right now and give you 50 phone numbers. And they'll tell you how much benefit that they've received from following my lead and just going through the motions. I mean, it's remarkable. I'm very grateful to be able to do what I do and help to make those changes and facilitate them in a flow. And I won't name names. I could, but those guys know who they are out there. There's several of them. So anyway, with that, I'll take another moment here, Jeffrey, to step in with you, check in. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Do you have any questions, Jeffrey?
I always have questions. I do.
Right.
We don't have a ton of questions, but I just wanted to let you know an old student. I'm going to butcher this name. I'm sad, but it's Petri.
Oh yeah, Petri. Petri was my student from Finland.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's really a lot of fun. And then Frank Gardner stepped in, of course.
Frank. Well, okay. Frank's one of those guys that I could say he's one of my older guys. And Frank has made just tremendous progress. Been working through these exercises with Bruce. Huge help in my touch, articulation, and phrasing. Thank you, Frank. And Frank is, been with me long enough to work through the building process. And he looks fabulous when he's playing now. It's just great to see the growth. And again, for younger folks who think, oh, I don't know, man, I'm probably too old for that. Tell that to David Garibaldi. Well, when he was studying with me, he would have been in his earlier 70s. And he studied with me for a couple of years. He's going to be, I think, 75. He studied with me a couple of years. Tristan Bowden, I think he just turned 70 this year. Ralph Johnson from Matt G here, a new student. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Matt Gallagher. Matt is a student of mine from up north, Northern California.
Oh,
and
California. Okay.
He's a newer guy. Yeah, he just started. I think he's maybe into lesson 3 or so. But anyway, so, regarding age, you can facilitate changes. I would never, throw the towel in on anybody. And I've worked with some very challenging students who have a myriad of issues.
Well, you've worked with me, and I have a myriad of issues. And I'm one of those guys that played traditional grip all my life and wanted to switch over to match grip for a variety of reasons. And it was not, I thought it'd be easy. I thought it'd be just so easy to flip over to match grip and just kind of master that. But, it's coming along over time, but yeah, it's one of those deals where you have to slow it down. The more I slowed it down, the more I tried to build the articulation, as you said, and follow your path. It's really starting to click for me, and it clicks different paces, right? For different people. It's
absolutely. Everybody has a different process of learning. Everybody has different dilemmas about how they practice. My simple advice, and it's not simple, but is to keep sticks in your hand every day. A little bit every day goes a long way. I can't stress that enough. It's, I can just use myself as the best example because I'm me. And I could say that I've kept sticks in my hand, pretty much every day. There was periods where I didn't tend to the plants. And when I look back, I could be a little disgruntled at myself, but that's the path. You can't live in the drum space every single day for hours and hours a day, but you can pick up sticks a little bit every day.
Let me ask you something on that.
Sure.
I also want to say Anthony is here, and he's also going to reach up for lessons. Very cool. And of course, our good friend Mark, San Antonio, which is probably
Mark.
cooling off a little bit himself. And there's a question pending, but I wanted to ask you something I've noticed as I have been making this switch, and I do spend, per your point, a bit of time every day on the pad trying to just get that feel, right?
Yeah.
And to match that up. And what I've noticed is that if I could go 7, let's say I go 7, or maybe, I don't know, say 7 days, 10 days, and I'm really in a row, and I'm getting to a point, maybe I'm pushing and I step away, whether it's by choice or by just accident. I'll come back a day, 2 days later. I'm amazed at how I feel like I'm actually playing better by just stepping away. Have you ever noticed that? Where
yes,
I know there's this whole thing with myelin and neuroscience about you need to let these synapses catch up.
Yes.
Have you run into that?
Yes, absolutely. And there is that, let's say, you're running into it for a while, and you do want to take like maybe a day or 2 or 3 away from it. No problem with that. But that again has to be part of the process. So it's like you do your 7 days and you take a day off, and you do your 9 days, and then maybe you take 2 days off, and you do 15 days, and maybe you take 3 days off. You do 4 days and you take a day off. That's life. But the consistency of that is important. And what you're practicing and how you're practicing what you're practicing is hugely effective in yielding results. So, you know, you can sit down in the pad and go like, well, I was just playing a paradiddle. And I've had guys come in and I say, show me how you're playing a paradiddle. And they've got, you know, kind of closed down between the thumb and the index finger. And they're just, you know, clawing the stick and going. You could practice that every day for a year. I don't know if you're ever going to break out of that reflexive habit of holding there. So, you know, when you're retooling and learning to let go, that's the biggest process to build up a more effective way of practicing. So I have so many different little calisthenics now that I can run myself for my own practice. I practice what I preach. And those are, you know, amassed by each student as they go through the process with me. You have like, I don't know, I could pick about 20 of them that are great to warm up with. And they could be just a small loop, like that 7-stroke roll I did, where you're just going like. Now, I wouldn't necessarily just sit with that for a long time, because once I've got it, I want to go and take that other movement that I'm struggling with. Like there's a thing that I do with the 3-stroke rough paradiddles. I'll do it on this pad because you're going to hear a better. So getting that pull to really step out, and it's really the left hand that's the dog. The left hand's kind of always like that, you know, oh shit. Yeah. So, but if I stay with the design of just doing a left hand lead and go, okay, again, there's a choreographed move in there. There's coming down. So I'd have down, tap, up, tap, down, tap, up, tap, down, tap, up, tap, down, tap, up, tap. And the lift, of course, is going to be small. And when I'm doing that 3-stroke rough, because of the nature of the technical way of executing the 3-stroke rough, I'm not going to give a molar release and lift like that. I'm not going to utilize that because that would disrupt my more flattened wrist to get that to really just sing right into the hand, man.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you, but we have a question from Chris Russo. And explain how you approach accenting the second partial of a double stroke, such as within a paradiddle.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, Chris. I've seen Chris has been on my YouTube channel and made some comments here and there. Haven't seen him in a while, but thanks for showing up, Chris. If I'm doing a paradiddle with a second accent, that again is going to have a little bit of an up down. So I'm gonna set that stroke up. So here's the paradiddle in our regular format of 1 E and A 2 E and A 3 E and A 4 E and A 1 E and A 2 E and A 3 E. All right, so I want to investigate those. I have a whole system, again, another flow of design of using those paradiddles and sort of setting them up to moving those accents around in a very nice organized way. Again, that takes a moment to get there because that is, you know, it needs to be sort of facilitated with some other steps before you jump in. I could do anything. I could show you a step and go, hey, here's a step. But honestly, in my own inner experience of teaching, if I do that, I leave other threads untied. You're not going to get quite the results you're after. And, you know, I'm pretty detailed about that. I don't like to skip too many steps. I have guys pushing me around and I'll go there and I'll go, well, see what happened? Now we got to go back and do this. And so I don't let that happen quite as much because I know better now. Before I would just sort of let somebody lead a little bit if they had a request. But honestly, these days I just go, well, you know, we can do that. But if you, I'll show you that for a second, but I want to bring you back here so that I get a little bit better of a setup. Haven't had a lesson in a while, but I did too. Now, oh, hey, Larry, how are you? Starting in my 40s after playing decades and still working the lesson materials for a minute of an hour. Thank you, Larry. And Larry is a great example. Again, like Frank, who went through that process. And I've seen Larry's posts pretty recently. I haven't seen one in a while, but when I see them, I got a smile on my face and a big thumbs up for that because he's basically taking all that stuff and working it into, what I would say, how to perform it well, and very creatively so, because Larry has also a little bit of a percussion headspace. And
Larry Graves, right? I mean,
yeah,
I always see he's very musical around. He likes to try to expand the musical voice.
Yeah. We did. Larry and I worked through not a whole bunch of it, but we did some of my book, the third section, and he really ran with it. He really created some really great ideas, which is exactly the intention of my book. I wrote it more in a flat design where I can impart some of the things I think would be valuable. And we did that a little bit, but then Larry started coming up with creative ideas and designs to it, and it was just magnificent. So thank you, Larry, for hanging out. Steve Mancuso, another one. Steve is another one. Steve studied with me for at least a couple years. Steve is an adjunct professor up in Toronto, and he's another guy who, really just stood tall. And just what I appreciate about like Larry and Steve, they're educators too. And I think Steve's been at Humber College for, I don't know, I'm going to say 30 years, Steve. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but something like that. And he's still in it to, study and push forward and do all the things that I think are beneficial, especially to extend your shelf life. The older you get, we get older, things start to happen, and you got to be mindful of what those things are. Make sure you're doing the right stuff. As they say, you are what you eat. So consume good, and consume good exercises to stay limber, lubed, and oiled and ready to go. I'm not playing any gigs. The last gig I played was in May, and that was first gig since March of 2020. And I got to tell you, I walked into that gig and I was a little nervous, frankly, because I went, geez, I really haven't played. I hope I'm able to sustain. Well, we did 3 long sets, nice breaks, because it was a really elaborate party, but I felt fantastic. I really felt like, geez, I didn't really miss a beat. Now, maybe that's testimony to what's practice for sure, but having a couple thousand or more gigs in my back pocket, probably at least, I don't know, close to 2,500, 3,000 gigs after all the years I've been gigging, it's hard to calculate all those, but boy, it's got to be in that range.
It can feel weird though. It can feel weird. I mean, it doesn't take that long to be out of the loop, and so to speak, in a live gig, and then to come back, it does feel foreign for a second, no matter what. It's just just an interesting thing how that can kind of dissipate a little bit. Now you get it, like you say, it's funny. It's the bike thing. It does seem to come back, but it takes a second to get that feel.
Well, I mean, we had a good, this gig was like a well set up gig. So there was a sound company, everything was mic'd up. It was, really great players on the band. And, honestly, I played that first beat when we started to play. And I went, oh yeah, all right, cool, man. Musicians, And again, like I've done that for so many years. When I moved back to LA in 97, that was my quest, was to really get super active. I was active in Europe, but not by the standards of how I could be active here in LA. And I did great gigs in Europe when I lived there. And I did have some very fertile moments, but there was some downtime where there was not as much activity. I'm sure I could have done stuff that would have been, productive, different periods of your life. You go through different headspaces.
We should ask Chat. Ask Chat before you continue. Like, is anybody here? If you're gigging, like, are you gigging right now? Are you back at it after COVID? I'm just curious. I mean, some may not be gigging at all before or during COVID, but I'm just curious after COVID if people actually are getting back. I say after like it's all over, but
yeah.
I guess in today's world, are people back to gigging at all? Is it consistent? I'd just be curious what their experience is if they feel like sharing that.
I would too. Yeah. I mean, I do talk to a few guys who are gigging.
And if it felt weird, it felt a little bit, just, out of place for a second. I don't know. Just curious.
Well, fortunately for me, the feedback I've gotten from my students is like, God, it felt great, but that's because they're, nurturing the art form by practicing. So I've had a few guys who said they filled in as a kind of a sub going into the gig, with a different group of guys that they hadn't really worked with before. and felt fantastic. And we're able to kind of get that ear to step ahead of their hands, and the hands just being responsive to the ear. You know, a lot of times when you do those gigs, you better have big ears. Steve Hatfield.
Oh, Steve.
Watching on my way to. Now, there's another guy. Steve is one of my longtime students, and he's, again, we were talking about this the last lesson. Steve is the working man's drummer. He's been out there doing all sorts of gigs. He is, you know, quite fine-tuned to do pretty much anything. You know, he'll yell at me later about that and say no.
Sure. Yeah.
But he knows
How dare you.
how to conduct himself on a variety of different gigs, whether it's doing a musical, a jazz trio, doing a rock and roll gig, attention to sound, all that kind of stuff. And he's an educator. He's an adjunct professor at Wichita State. So if there was any younger guys grappling where they might want to go, well, you can go to Steve. Again, he's got a long journey of being out there and working in the fields, which is what I think that's why you go to school, so you can work. You don't go to just go and think magically that you're going to get your stuff together in a second. You go and play, and you have guys like Steve mentor you to go, no, this is what I did. These are steps I took, and kind of help bring that nurturing process along. So you become a player. Now, I don't know how the world of playing works out there, but I don't think that really changes. It's your motivation to get people to come over to your house or go somewhere where you can play and not get caught up in looking at Instagram and YouTube, and work on your craft. I did that I was at my buddy's house, and he's one of my favorite drummers in that he's a total street guy, no real study. And he's got a great feel for a lot of things. We actually worked together in a double drum setup with a Grateful Dead tribute band like 20-something years ago. And we did something actually right before lockdown in 2020. And that group of guys, with the exception of the guitar player lead, had never played with us. We did something with that same guitar player before at a rehearsal studio, just getting together and playing. And I told the guy, I said, man, if Dave's on the gig, I'm there. I'll do it. So I can't tell you it was about 5 or 8. I just got to make sure I don't get pulled over. Very good. Thank you, Steve. So with Dave, we were playing, and about 5, 6, 7 times, each guy, or a couple of times, the sax player would turn around and look at us and go like, God, you sound like one guy. In other words, we were doing different things, but we were blending. And that's important. That's ear. That's
so key. I've been doing a lot of percussion with a drummer when I play in New York, as you know, and you don't get to practice a lot. You have to use your ears so much and be willing to, we say check your ego, but you have to be willing to actually enjoy that part of making two percussionist drummers, whatever, sound as one. And it's such a massive joy and effect that has when you pull that together. People really are impressed by that macro sense. It's really
is the bigger picture. Yes. So anyway, I want to
finish your thought.
So I'm going out of Dave's house. I had to drop off something to him. Oh, I know what I dropped off. I gave him a scone because he let my wife and I use his refrigerator. We were having a new electrical panel installed on one of the hottest days, and we thought, well, let's just be safe. We don't know how many hours the electricity is going to be off. And he was not there. Gave me the key. So I wanted to give him a scone. My wife is a very good baker. And we were hanging out. And as I was standing at his door, I go, what is that? And he goes, did you hear that? I go, yeah. And it was kids across the street in the garage playing. And I thought it was drums. And then he said, no, is that my air conditioner? Well, I opened the door. There's a group of kids playing in the garage right across the street. So I'm leaving anyway. I go, all right, Dave, I got to go. And I walk over there. And I'm walking. I have my mask on. And I'm walking up. And I hear the kid go, oh, he's going to tell us to turn down. And I go, no, I'm not. I said, I'm going to sit and play with you guys. So I just told the two, there was like a guy and a girl. I said, sorry, I don't mean to be a pest, but just, a little distance and we're good. And I sat down and looked at this kid on the guitar. I go, come on, man, play something. He's like, well, what do I play? I just play what you were just playing. So he played. I recognized the tune. I don't know what it was, but he just started playing a riff, and I kicked in drums, and they looked at me and went like, oh my God, And I stepped up. We played, and I laughed. I went, yeah, I'm a drum teacher. I teach, and I've been playing for years. And I said to them, if you guys are really interested in following your passion for music, get out there and just play. Practice and play. You've got a great service. You can look at any great player on the YouTube right on the YouTube. That's the old guy said. And you can get your shit together and at least know who different people are. But practice, get into your thing, play. So anyway, I felt like the Lone Ranger.
Did you end with don't do drugs?
Well, you know,
I'm just kidding. It's that old thing, like
but
stay in school, don't do drugs. That's your
you know, in essence, you know, you can get a much better self-esteem and character building process by going and doing something for yourself that gives you a personal payoff. And that's the great thing about playing an instrument. You have a chance. You know, it's unnerving because you have to face yourself every day and look at yourself in the mirror and try to fine tune those things that you're not happy with. You go to school to learn new things for your mental toolbox and learn life's long. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Anthony. That's it. Yeah. I'm not back to gigging yet. I played one casual gig with my son this past July, classic jazz standards. And the previous gig to that was December. Wow, that's a little bit of a run, but you know, hey, that's okay. But I'm sure you got a lot of gigs in the bank too. So, but anyway, yeah, it's, you know, one of those things where you can get together and play. I mean, you know, if you're still being safe about things, I don't know where everybody stands, but for me, it's imperative to kind of step back and not be in places I don't want to be. And so, you know, but there's guys getting together and playing, and you can get a rehearsal studio and pay a couple of bucks, keep your mask on and play. You can play to records. You know, I don't know how it works, like with the live stream, like getting together and playing. I know a few guys who do it. I think there's still latency.
There's some apps that really, there are some platforms that will really make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably I mean, I can't imagine that there aren't guys sitting in a development room trying to figure out every nuance to take that technology to the next level where we can just get up, play, have no latency, and meet up with a guy in Germany. And oh wow, Chris is at home recovering from COVID. Well, sorry to hear that, man. You know, I just got word yesterday. My mom, who's going to be 92, was tested positive for COVID. Now I don't know. Yes, well, she's in the hospital now, but my brother said she doesn't have any symptoms right now. They said she was asymptomatic, but she does have like some pneumonia. So I don't know if that's a byproduct. And I haven't talked to her. I got to call her this afternoon because she just went in Friday night. And yesterday was a busy day for the family. So I didn't get a chance to check in. And I know my other brothers are checking in.
Well, we wish you well, Chris.
Yeah, man.
Get on the mend, get back on your drums.
Yeah, I hope all is well with that, man. That's not fun. I've known some other people who got sick and it was not pretty.
No.
You know, I won't name them, but one of my good friends, or I say longtime friends, I know the guy for many, many, many years. I just don't see him that often. He got sick last year and it was not good. Thankfully, he had his two sons being able to deliver food and keep an eye on him. And I think he did go into the hospital. And thankfully, they said, well, you're not quite that sick. So your best bet is to go home and just, you know, lay low. And he did recover. And I don't think he has any residual issues from that, but not fun. Not fun. He said it was just horrible. It was like about a month, too, for him to be sick. And that's
sure.
So, but so, you know, back to,
he's just wishing everybody a nice recovery. I thought that was a nice positive.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're there too. Just kind of thinking about mom, but we'll see, you know, how that goes. It was very not fun to hear that yesterday when my brother told me she tested positive. So now he and his wife have to get tested because they were spending time with her she's at a home, a facility. So, and at those places, you don't know who's there.
Nope.
You know, so
I have the same situation. You know.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So, but anyway, you know, we're kind of closing in on the hour here, and I know Jeffrey has business to take care of too. I just want to close out with, you know, there are definite paths to take to kind of yield you into a path of least resistance. I know there's a lot of information out there. I don't want to be, you know, the old man, get off my lawn kids, but there's a lot of misguided information. And while I'm on board for some of it and some have some value, sometimes that step that you might be seeing needs to be preceded by a couple of steps. And I don't hear good narration and good formulative, comprehensive, what do I want to say, concepts and philosophies to bring you there. So if you are looking to up your game, please don't hesitate to call. I'm a busy guy, but I always try to find a space. It's pretty busy, but you know, the schedule has some liquidity to it. And as things have changed, I mean, I don't teach live. I had a couple of guys who asked me about live teaching, and it's just not in my world right now. And my Skype chops, or my Zoom chops, I should say, they were started Skype. Now I use Zoom mostly, are spot on. I have my, I'll give you a quick run through. I have my, and maybe other people have seen this, but we have the good old, we have the overhead camera, and we have foot camera, and we have the good old straight one. And when I do videos for my students, I now have an overhead camera, or a little holder housing for my phone to do some of that, because that's nice perspective. One of my students who had studied with me and then came back after COVID, he got a grant from the English government to study. And I was doing something with the overhead cam in the stream. He said, "Oh, that's great. Can you film that?" And I went, I didn't have this little holder. I said, "No, I don't have anything to film up there. And I can't really film through the streaming because I don't have the knowledge how to do that anyway." But I went, "That's a great idea." So I just went on the good old Amazon, found myself a little clip phone, what do you call it, gooseneck thing, clipped it to my lighting fixture up there, and it gets fantastic angle for a camera. So for that overhead thing, doesn't give you all the perspective of lift and drop that you'd want to see from the side, but it's another valuable tool. DW 5000 turbo or accelerator bass pedal, trying to figure out which one to buy. Okay, I'm going to give you my quick selling point. If you get a pedal, I do recommend the DW 5000. I don't know what a turbo and an accelerator is. Forgive my ignorance, but I do know this. Big plug for Dana Bentley at Bentley's Drum Shop in Fresno. Call him up and tell him you want to get the Bruce Becker special. I recommend getting the DW 5000 with a nylon strap with a medium felt beater ball. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, with at least in terms of my testing around with all my students, not one student that has purchased that pedal ever said anything but a fantastic glowing review of like, "Oh my God, what a great pedal." There's a sense of balance to that beater ball, not heavy. There's a sense of reducing the weight value of having a chain and a clunky chain to drive that pedal. And the strap has a much more fluid feel.
Now, can they, like, I already have a DW 5000 that's got a chain on. Is there any way to? They
can be retrofitted. I can't, I don't know how to do it, but you can do it. I've had, like, I had Stan at the Pro Drum Shop take my old 7000.
Right.
When I had one years ago, and I said, "Can you put a strap on?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And
I've seen some videos on it. I think we could probably either source them out there, or probably if you had to, you could send the pedal out.
Yeah, but if you're looking to get a pedal, and I've had a myriad of people talk to Dana about that, and I think there was a period where he had it on his website that it was the Bruce Becker model. So that's great, but I love that pedal. I have 5, 6 of those or so. And they're all pretty good. You know, a couple of them are excellent, and they, something about whatever, how I set them up is just fantastic. And the other ones are great as well. It's just, it's, you know, get 5 of those pedals. There's always a little bit of a difference, something you can't have a perfect replica of that. Right. And I'm very, very meticulous about, you know, pedals and seating posture, how your foot is developed. In fact, we did that. We did that workshop. When we do that, Jeffrey, at the end of August, right?
Yeah, I think the 29th, if I'm not mistaken.
I did a masterclass on foot, and it was fantastic. Thank you, Jimmo. Is that Jimmo, I guess?
Would it be Yemo? Jimo?
Well, anyway,
we're gonna butcher it.
We're butchering. Sorry, man. But and where is he from? It says
from Chile, South America.
Nice, man. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Right on, brother.
Great to have you.
Thanks for hanging with us. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off. I've got a few things I got to take care of. I know Jeffrey has to too. Always a pleasure, Jeffrey. Thank you for hosting. You always do a fantastic job fielding questions and
appreciate that.
Good conversation.
Thank you, everybody.
This will just hang out there in the ethers for a while on YouTube.
Yeah.
Unless YouTube flags us and said we were like malicious in our behavior today.
I don't think today. I think we behaved today. I think we're going to be all right.
Good.
Well, I mean, I behaved today, but you may have been a disaster.
we can go on the tire. But I do want to do coming up. We want to do a stream, and this will be announced coming up for a special event. I'll indicate more stuff once Jeff and I solidify everything. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Ken is, I think, one of the very first guys who bought my DVD.
Oh, okay.
I think. I got to remember, but I think he'd be able to tell me. But I think he purchased it when I just produced everything.
That was exciting, right? That first time that first sale, and you're like, oh,
it was, or the first review. I just actually on my Facebook feed for Memories came up my review from Rhythm Magazine, the English UK drum magazine. And it was a fantastic review. I got like a 5-star, whatever. And the guy was really, really, just inside it and said, man, what great content. Now, that being said, I would say it's still great content, but the architecture is still going to be better driven from where I'm coming from. But great stuff. And if you do want that, there are no hard copies. And I don't know how many people want hard copies, but you can go to Hudson Music and get it through Hudson. They sell it streaming. So it is still available, along with my book, which is also in a digital download form as well.
Yeah, and you go to brucebecker.com. I think you have a shop page there, and they can search it out through there, and it goes to Hudson as well, if that's easier. Either way, they're going to end at the same source, which is great.
That's right. That's it.
Fantastic.
All right, man. All
right, sir. So until next time, I guess, and hopefully that'll be soon. And all right, I'm going to lead us out of here, and to everybody, thank you for dropping in and catching on and dropping stuff. And also, I just wanted to say, Andreas has a hard copy as well.
Oh, very good. So he must have been an early purchaser as well.
Yeah, right at the end there, you got that snuck in there. So, nice. All right, my friends, thank you so much, Bruce. We'll see you next time, sir.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey.
Peace.
Cheers, man. Peace.
Thank you, everyone. Till next time.